Gather round, the lights are glowing. Pick a color, let it shine. There's a little joy in waiting as the yarn lines up just right. Cast a stitch and start a story. Make it simple, make it sing. Every loop feels like a good day. Every thread's a bright new thing. Knit your heart out, let it show. Stitch by stitch and row by row. Knit your heart out, come along. Turn a little yarn into a song.
Hello. Oh my goodness. So let me start at the beginning. My name is Liliana. This podcast is Happiness Delivered. It's a podcast about knitting and making. It leans heavy on the knitting and yarn because I also hand dye yarn and do that too. So in terms of making, and I think that's something I haven't been incorporating enough into this podcast, I don't get around to showing a massive amount of knitting, but also I'm not showing any of the stuff that's not knitting. So I'm going to be working on that. So I figured today, since I was just making these little notes to myself yesterday about how I needed to prioritize the knitting time, which sounds like, oh, well, that's a nice luxury. But given that folks want to see samples of my work, I want to have samples of my work. I'm trying to knit more in my own yarn because of the previous thing, needing samples. I have like my entire stash in my previous office upstairs, and I look at it. I love it. I love everything I ever bought. But given that I have to knit samples in my yarn to sell my yarn, I don't get to dip into other dyers' yarn that I have in my stash. So anyhow, I got all organizational this summer. I guess maybe I got tired of the disorder that I had slowly got adjusted to. So I don't know how I got here in this point of this conversation, but I'm just going to follow that tangent. Maybe later we'll get back to where we started. But yeah. So basically, in prioritizing the knitting time, I made this whole list of like, okay, what would a schedule look like for me if I made one? Because I've never made my own schedule, and I'm processing this out loud as I record this, so you'll be hearing it for the first time. But I started thinking about it, and I'm like, half my life has been, following somebody else's schedule, and that was easy, right? Oh, parents dictated for the first half, right? Then you go through school, life, work, responsibility. There's always somebody whose schedule you're considering ahead of your own, or the time that you have available to do the things is not the ideal time for you to do those things. So like, for instance, the knitting. Yes, I could take it everywhere, but I don't. My daughter doesn't like it when I'm knitting at her events. So like, she's got a volleyball game. Obviously, I'm going to watch. I'm not going to be knitting. I'm at a restaurant. I'm going to be knitting. I'm supposed to be engaging with the place, the moment. So like knitting out and about while doing other things is just not for me. I'm not a multitasking knitter. That quickly becomes a multi-tinking event. So all that to say, I just decided to write down what I think that might look like if I had a schedule, and then I listed out the pros of having this dedicated knitting time, because obviously it has a ripple effect. Not only do I get to knit, finish things that I have on my needles, have content to share. If I, it's not just stuff here, and that's the other thing is like I have a knitting podcast. It's a great place for me to talk about my stuff, show my stuff, because otherwise, who knows when you see this, right? Like the algorithm, it's all algorithm keyword dependent, and while I understand how it works and the methodology, I just refuse to play the game a little bit because I don't think that's, if I feel like I have to play the game, then that feels like a performance, and then it's automatically not on my radar. So I've been looking at how to do the things that I know would be beneficial from a business perspective while still being true to myself. No, how should I phrase this? The capitalist focus isn't my focus. So trying to follow like preordained, prescribed, strategies doesn't feel aligned. In making this list, I was thinking about the ways it benefits me, not solely from I'm doing X to get Y, or from like marketing strategies. La la la. I'm just like, ugh, the more I think about the goal of marketing is just to get more of this, and I'm like, I know, and it's nice. I would love to get more sales and more interest and all that jazz, but I also don't feel like it's in keeping with who I am to go and I guess I'm not really making anybody do anything, just thinking out loud, but I'm like, to sing the song and dance of, go on, buy some more, when I know like not everybody is consuming from a place of from a good place. I recall being in that era of my life where I'd add to cart was therapy, right? Like, oh, I want to need a little dopamine hit. Sometimes you just are disassociating and you're going for the dopamine hit. And yes, you want dopamine, I have plenty. But I don't necessarily want people to just blindly just think money's the only way to support me, or that because that's not true for me anyway. So basically a lot of internal processing on how am I going to build my new path forward in whatever environment I find myself in, because historically I end up in places and discover the dysfunction and then immediately begin trying to work on resolving the dysfunction or the broken thing. But by and large, in all the places I have been, worked, and existed, that's just par for the course. An unacceptable occupational hazard is to have just sufficient enough chaos and irritation that folks can be focused on the problem and not on the solution. We want you to exist with as much inconvenience as possible so that you're frustrated. Because frustration equals stress, and stress equals poor desperation and bad decisions. And then we have you trapped for life thinking that you can never do better than this blub job or this blub place. And wow, TED Talk. Anyhow, this project. Look at me. Back to the plot. Oh no, sorry. I don't necessarily know when I'm gonna go on the tangent. I do know that since talking to you, I am now beginning my first tink of the knitting time, which is funny, given that I have just finished mentioning how multitasking and knitting instantly becomes multi-tinking. Remind me to put a scoreboard for all the times that I had to undo my work. Because I bet you I can rewind to the moment in time where I picked up my cable needle, but did nothing with it. So, yep. This is my life. Okay, so let me get back here. And while we're talking about the project and looking at the yarn, I will tell you that it is the antler toque beanie from Tin Can Knits. I've made it before, but this is my first time in a long time. And the goal is one that I can actually keep, wear, use as it was going to be a gift. I'm not going to lie. It's going to be a gift. But then I'm like, okay, I don't know if they're going to wear this red hat. But also, I do need a sample. And then, well, would they mind if I used it for a while and then gave it to them? Probably not. But also, that wasn't the goal. What happened here? No, I always confuse myself. Just ignore me. This hat has got me blind a couple times because I'm like, I'll show you in a minute. Let me finish this. And I'm going to put down because we have already covered that perhaps totally. Let's just end this now because oh Lord. Now I have my second Tink is that in progress because by the time I noticed that I hadn't actually started doing the cable that I'm supposed to be working on, or I'm not doing the row that I'm supposed to be doing, and I went back to correct that, I realized, you also didn't do that at the beginning either. So I'll have to think again. Maybe that should be the name of this podcast. Multitasking while knitting. Think again. As cool as that was. Yeah. And I did enjoy the talking while working. Maybe we should stick to something that's stuck in it when I try that. I'll show you the other mistake that isn't that what we do? Somebody compliments you on something and then you immediately want to show them everything that's wrong with it. I bet you there's psychoanalysis just waiting to come out about that. No doubt. Anyway, so as I was saying, it's an antler toque, and okay, so I'll keep it here. I'll try to keep my armpit out of your face. I'm nice like that. So I'm trying to be mindful of the fact that this is like the cinematic mode. So like, I don't want to play the, it's blurry. It's not blurry. Okay. So this is the antler toque. I'm now finding my mistake to point it out to you. So it has a very nice, even little cable that goes up, except where you make a mistake and skip one of the cable rows. But then look at this. If I had to go like this to see it, it's probably going to be just fine. So okay, I'll get a little closer, but when I get closer, I can't see the screen. So, and I get in focus, and then it defeats the point. Mistakes were made, and that is life. You're not living if you're not failing. So, and obviously this isn't a failure. And though it does make an excellent little intro to failure, being comfortable with failure, because the mistakes you make, you can actually go back and fix and you can see quite quickly that they become invisible in the grand scheme, in the landscape of life, in the landscape of your knitting. Your mistakes are never as glaring as you think they are. So basically, let's not build a whole personality around our mistakes when mistakes are just the ways that we are trying. The desk pile, the things to do pile, the life stuff takes center stage every now and then. So let me get rid of you. Sorry. Notifications. Okay, so maybe I'll start with what's all behind me, because this is a little pegboard display that I picked up for when I do events and trunk shows and stuff like that. And I haven't used it yet because during my last event, during the day of things, I want to simplify my setup because I do everything myself. The loading, the unloading, the unpacking, the setup. And it's difficult for me to accept help because I don't exactly know how I want it at the time that I'm doing it, and I can't give you instructions to help me. So, ergo, some of that discussion about plans and organizations, efficiency, I'm good at it. I've consistently done this in workplaces. I can tell other people, hey, this flow, this, that. But then for me, I don't take time to go and do that. And that's one of those things that I'm prioritizing at this time. So anyway, my little board, I love it. I'm probably going to tweak it a little bit because it's very plain and vanilla. But I can't afford to go on that tangent right now. Too many other tangents. And because I decided to hang up some of my little yarns and give you a nice little pretty podcast experience to make up for all the other ways I go off track. Is it working? I hope so. Over here, I have the Beaches and Cream collection that I brought out over the summer. And then summer got the best of me, and I never made the blues that side of the house that I wanted to do. So now that school's back in session, I'm going to prioritize the dyeing portion of life, but it's been hard to plan because there's a lot of moving parts, and sometimes in the planning stages, I get stuck in the big picture, and when I start going to execute the big picture, I realize that I'm tripping over a bunch of little steps that I didn't know how many steps the little steps would then require each on their own. It's like a whole horrible cascading effect. So I'm trying to do organization, but not get stuck in organization and never make it to execution. Basically, I got on that topic again. I just want to talk about that. This is Beaches and Cream. Over here and up, we have what I have categorized as the moody something. I forgot what it's called. And then on this side, we have some of my fall favorites. I do have something that I was working on in those colors, but I'm going to have to speak to the understudy who is now finishing those socks for me and see how are they going. Because I have done that multiple times. I just get down into I've got the tube, and I lose the plot over the flap, and flanking me are these cute little project bags that I had made, and on the back it's just the parcel logo, one of the logos, because I like change. There, I said it. Does that make me unpopular, uncool? I like change. I like change. I don't always like the timing of the changes, but looking back at my life and how much it's changed, I like change. It is the catalyst. So I'll tell you something funny about this week, only because it's recent and relevant. This year will be my 30th class reunion, and I don't plan to go, not for any particular reason other than I did that. I did that phase already, and now I'm in a different phase. And the people who I'm in touch with, I'm in touch with, and the people who I'm not in touch with, I don't need to go to the place of the trauma and the wounding to interact with. If I see them on the street, I'm happy to see everybody, like easygoing in that regard, but I don't plan to go. But while talking to a friend of mine earlier this week and trying to pick out a pattern, because obviously I'm so close to done here. That's the time when I like to park it. And maybe psychologically, I'm parking it because I don't want it to end. And therefore, by putting it in purgatory, I get to keep it going just a bit longer. The theory. I was trying to narrow the field of options on Ravelry. And at some point, I'll make a video with some of the stuff that I have saved and plotted that I haven't done. For starters, maybe that'll inspire you. Maybe if you're looking for ideas, colors you have, maybe you're like me, you just like to look. So that's okay too. So I was on there and I was like trying to find something that meets my capacity, right? Because and it has a lot because they're small, they're simple, and I can finish them. But I want to have something more clothing, even though I live in Florida at the moment. And wearing sweaters here is a limited time event, very limited time of year, and limited time that you can comfortably have a sweater on at any given time. With that, I was like, okay, maybe I'll look at cowls, right? Like a little bit longer. Like, but I don't like them. Like, I, I, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I could look a little bit better when I have a separation between my head and my body instead of looking like, no, like that. So from a aesthetic, I know. Don't get me wrong. There's so many different styles of cowls, but I think because I have a mental roadblock with turtlenecks and stuff of that nature, it wasn't an exciting thought. So therefore, why would I pursue making something that doesn't excite me? So then we landed. I was looking at accessories and I found this vest. I wish I could tell a story quickly. So watch this at 2x speed. I was looking at Ravelry and I came across a vest that looked a lot like my senior class picture in the yearbook. And that took me down a rabbit hole completely because I had already had my colors on the table and picked out. Like I generally remembered the colors of the vest that I was wearing in the picture, but I had picked out these colors. Oh, maybe when I get to this editing portion, you'll be able to see. So I started off with the Scummy Mummy because I love this color and I haven't, aside from this little swatch I made like 5 million bajillion years ago, I haven't gotten to it. One of the samples was in like the top of the vest is this color and it ends in like a darker color. So I was like, okay, wait a minute. I got that. We can do that. Okay. So let me change. I don't know why I like saying the juggly juggles. Never ends well for me. So I had this out and then I was like, what would I like to go with that? What do I feel like? And then I was like, oh yeah, I do. It's a 3-color DK. Okay. Sort of like this. And because I was just picking colors to put together, I picked all adjacent colors so that I can make a better decision. You get the drift. Okay, there's one more. That'll have to wait for the picture because I am about one ball away from disaster here. And the impetus for like, I want to cast on something new was that I wanted to use this Surrey, sparkly Surrey that I haven't used yet. So I don't know, because the pattern is just decay. So like, I'm remembering the starting point of the story, so I'll go back to that and less about the pattern. I asked a friend who's on some Facebook group about the reunion, hey, because she had mentioned that they were posting photos in there, and I asked her for the photo on the yearbook so that I could see the vest. So she sends me this thing, and the colors of the vest are basically looking a lot like the second sample. And by then I'm just gonna like, because it was a lot for me to imagine, right? Like that it would look so similar to something that I was literally looking at and admiring and wanting to make again. So basically, in 30 years, the me then is still the me now. I'm the me. Me. All me. Since then till now. And I like that. I like that. Because I always felt that like everybody's trying to suppress you when you're young and happy because they want to give you reality checks. And to feel like me and recognize that the me I am now is a lot like the me I was then, except informed. It feels good. Not gonna lie. And then add to that the fact that I didn't have any knitting dreams then. Like that wasn't the thing. But even the fact that I'm wearing knitting, after just mentioning that Florida is not the knitwear, it's not never going to be the knitwear capital of anywhere, but I'm wearing knitwear. It was color work, and I'm looking at color work, and I've never done color work. So here I am looking at doing the thing that I have never done and looking at a picture of myself already living the thing that I'm going to make. I don't think anything has ever made me feel more like timelines are real and I'm back on the right one in that moment. But that's how I felt. A knitter in her knitwear 30 years ago, now into knitting, now into yarn as a business hobby in her fullest expression. Maybe I should go to my reunion and show them what it's like to live and be alive. Okay, I feel like that's a good place to stop. I rattled on, but it was expected. But I enjoyed it, and hopefully you did too. So with that being said, I'll leave you here.
Knit your heart out, let it show, stitch by stitch and row by row. Knit your heart out, here we go. There's always one more skein to know. Knit your heart out, come along. Find your rhythm, find your song. Knit your heart out, don't be shy. Pick up your needles.
Okay, yeah, that was awful. I moved this because it sounded bad while it was tucked under my hair. But I do a lot of this, so I'm going to be moving it all the time. What doesn't get touched? What doesn't get a lot of... Oh man, I'm just going to make this worse. This doesn't... My arms don't interact here, so I think this is the safest spot for clear audio. So we're going to move ahead.